I've been a consumer of crowdfunding campaigns since the 2010s. Much like a moth repeatedly flying into the same porch light, I kept coming back for more empty promises and hype-driven dopamine drips. And just like that moth, I learned nothing from being burned. Except now, I'm the one holding the lighter. And suddenly, all I can see is the FOMO minefield. Every tactic I used to fall for, now I have to decide if I'm willing to use them. So today I want to discuss crowdfunding as a first-time creator, and how I see each potential of gaining revenue from a moral standpoint. I'll be using an ethical emotivism framework. So we're going from ick to yippee on this tier list. We'll also give each crowdfunding tactic a FOMO power level ranking, quantifying how much FOMO it creates for a backer, as well as a creator benefit rank, showing how helpful that tactic is for gaining backers. Now, one small asterisk. I actually love the concept of crowdfunding. I think it's the perfect vehicle for giving creative people the means to actually fulfill dreams that would be considered unfeasible with traditional investment methods. Crowdfunding is truly a form of liberation for both consumers and creators, when it's done right. The dark side of crowdfunding is an anti-consumer hellhole of FOMO and failed promises. But that's why I want to talk about it. Crowdfunding is simultaneously the best and worst thing about the board game industry. I'll be referencing both Kickstarter and GameFound campaigns, and just know that I will be talking about other people's games and their campaigns. There is a particular focus on one recent campaign that I feel has used almost every FOMO trick in the book, but I want to make sure you know I don't really mean any ill will to these creators or backers. I'm purely examining how certain techniques are used and popularized. In other words, this video isn't about the quality of the games or the people making them. It's a study on FOMO itself and how crowdfunding can be weaponized as the ultimate FOMO machine. But first, what actually is FOMO? Terms like FOMO get thrown around so often it starts to feel like a meaningless buzzword. So I want to hyper-focus on the actual psychological phenomenon. The scientific article by Przybylski and colleagues, Motivational, Emotional, and Behavioral Correlates a Fear of Missing Out, defines FOMO as a pervasive apprehension that others may be having rewarding experiences from which one is absent. Now, they specify three main hypotheses in the study regarding FOMO. First, individuals who have their basic psychological needs satisfied, competence, autonomy, and relatedness, experience lower levels of FOMO, which means people with no control over their lives are perfect targets. You become 2 a.m. panic buyers convinced that owning this special thing will somehow fill that hole deep inside. Second, FOMO is negatively associated with psychological well-being. Higher FOMO means lower mood and lower life satisfaction. Shocking, I know. Turns out constantly feeling like you're missing out makes you miserable. Third, FOMO is robustly related to social media use. In a way, FOMO is theorized to be the mediator between deficits in psychological needs to actually using social media, in what seems to be this self-sustaining misery loop. So to summarize, if you're unhappy, powerless, and extremely online, congratulations, you're the target demographic. So when crowdfunding campaigns unintentionally or intentionally exploit FOMO, they're targeting a documented psychological vulnerability. They're looking at your unmet needs and thinking, yeah, we can monetize that, and are charging you hundreds of dollars for plastic miniatures. All right, now that we've established what we're dealing with, let's get into that tier list. Rewards for following. Before the campaign even begins, the FOMO can start. This is when a creator offers some kind of discount or a small freebie for following a campaign. This, to me, is a fairly normal way to encourage user engagement. One of the greatest predictors of crowdfunding success is follower count. Having that base of somewhat interested individuals actively aware of your game is arguably the greatest way to ensure success. From a FOMO perspective, I'm ranking it a 4 out of 10. It definitely creates FOMO, but because it's a low commitment, literally just clicking a button, it's not really severe, nor is it egregious. Will you likely follow a campaign that's going to give you a first player coin? Yeah, probably, but you need to have that core base of interest anyways. It's not like I go down every single campaign and just hit follow to make sure I 100% get that little bonus for every possible campaign. I have some dignity, not much, but some. Now, when it comes to creator benefit, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. It's a super easy way to create initial engagement and some traction without a huge cost. As long as that freebie is a novelty, like something non-gameplay related, I think it's a pretty great idea. From an emotivist perspective, this goes to A tier. Stretch goals. Stretch goals are the bread and butter of crowdfunding campaigns. They're exciting, they're captivating, and they perfectly encapsulate the crowdfunding spirit. It really is the manifestation of the creator's dream, having an organic groundswell of support that encourages the creator to create a better product. Do stretch goals work every time? No, definitely not. But I think when done correctly, they're arguably the most important tool for encouraging growth in a campaign. For me, the greatest example of this is Root's original Kickstarter campaign. Those cutout meeples with the adorable screen-printed faces, that was a stretch goal. They started off just as generic warrior cubes, but that stretch goal is arguably one of the biggest reasons for Root's success. I can't even imagine the game without these amazing wooden meeples for each faction. So how do I rate this? FOMO-wise, I don't think stretch goals necessarily create FOMO as much as they naturally encourage a groundswell of support to see how far the game can get. Sure, adding new features might encourage some backers, but it's not like one individual backer is able to push it to the next stretch goal. So I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10 for FOMO. For creators, as long as the stretch goals are realistic and actually doable, it's an easy 10 out of 10 method for gaining backers. It's the perfect vehicle for building hype in a campaign. Stretch goals go into S tier on my emotivist scale. It's practically a defining feature of crowdfunding, and when it works, it's both a motivator for consumers and a way to create a better product. Deluxe Editions. Okay, Deluxe Editions. I don't like these. I think this is where it starts to becoming less about creating the product and more about encouraging backer consumption. Now, I want to preface with something really important. I generally do back Deluxe Editions, but so do you. Look at the example of the reprint of Raw Pharaoh Edition. Raw Pharaoh Edition with the wooden pieces had 2,063 backers. Raw Acrylic Edition had 1,760 backers, but Raw Standard Edition only 953. That means only about 20% of backers actually went with the base game. And this is pretty common. Take a look at the Don't Starve Kickstarter page, which, in my opinion, is the picture-perfect example of FOMO-induced crowdfunding, and will be my case study piñata for the next 20 minutes. Now, to be entirely clear, I haven't played Don't Starve. This isn't about the gameplay and the game quality. I'm examining the campaign itself, because if we could distill crowdfunding FOMO into its most fundamental essence, we would get this. Now, Don't Starve. It has 4,345 back in the standard pledge, but there's a total of 19,185 total backers. That means only 22.6% of people went with the base game. So when you create multiple tiers, it gives consumers a choice, for sure, but you're also creating a powerful psychological effect called upward social comparison, where people compare themselves to others who they perceive of having more desirable experiences. In this case, that's the Super Ultra Deluxe Edition owners. Now, the flip side is that Deluxe Editions can be fairly restrained. A nicer set of tokens, some metal coins, a mini or two, these upgrade the game without making you feel like you're missing too much if you decide to go with the base game. This feels fine, but it's still not something I actively want to encourage from publishers. Generally, my favorite way to have a deluxe experience is usually some kind of upgrade kit, like how Dune Imperium has a completely separate purchase to get those miniatures. The gameplay is 100% identical, and you can essentially upgrade after you decided you already love the game. Or even better, some games just feel deluxe without needing anything else, like those clay blocks from PAX Premier. They feel amazing, and I didn't pay any extra for those. So maybe the best way is just to have your base game already deluxeified, considering most people are already buying the deluxe editions and people tend to want to have nice components. So let's go to the FOMO scale. I'm giving deluxe versions a solid 9 out of 10. It's a simple fact that backers would default to the higher tier deluxe version. It creates this aura that the base game just isn't good enough when put next to the more premium, deluxeified game. Now, for creator benefit, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. It's arguably the most powerful tool that I see consistently used to change a $50 pledge into $100 or $300 or a $500 pledge. It's absolutely insane of how many different tiers and pledge levels can exist to encourage people to purchase the most premium version out of some instilled fear that getting the base version is automatically a lesser experience. Is this good for consumers? No, but it is powerful. And I know this works because I fall for it too. Even knowing the psychology, even seeing through the tactics, there's this voice that whispers, what if the base game really isn't as good? What if I regret not getting the Deluxe Edition? So I upgrade. We all generally upgrade. That's why only 20% of people get those standard editions. I'm gonna put this into C tier. This form of crowdfunding FOMO is incredibly powerful, but also is cringe. It undoubtedly works, but it's not something I enjoy seeing on a crowdfunding page. Pre-launch expansions. Now, I can hear the screams of 15,000 Don't Starve backers, but you aren't realizing that the Deluxe Edition contains more content, like expansions and miniatures. Truly, I only see this level of aggressive company defense from mid-2000 console wars. It is pure copium to think that a game that isn't even out, that isn't even finished, should have an expansion already in production for it. And there are rare exceptions. I'm actually okay with a stretch goal being an expansion, or if the expansion is literally a different experience entirely, which I would say is best shown with Arcs and the Blighted Reach. But 90% of the time, a pre-launch expansion is just a piece of the game that's been cut out and then charged for extra. Or it's just completely unnecessary bloat that muddies the game into a bleak blur of upkeep and components. I'm going to show you 3 different examples. The Elden Ring board game had 4 launch expansions. G.I. Joe Operation Cobra has 6 expansions on a crowdfunding campaign page. Massive Darkness Dungeons of Shadowreach also has 4 crowdfunding expansions. So why is this mega cringe? When I see 5 expansions available on day 1 when the Kickstarter launches, my brain doesn't register, oh, optional content, how lovely. It registers, I'm going to be incomplete without all of this extra content. It makes you fear that if you only get the base game, it's an experience that's unfulfilling and hollow. So how do I rate this? From a FOMO perspective, it's an easy 10 out of 10. Almost all of these massively successful campaigns that makes millions of dollars use some form of day 1 expansion drops to encourage higher pledge levels. From the creator's perspective, it's also a crazy powerful tool to have backers keep backing at higher pledge levels, so also a 10 out of 10. And from an emotivist perspective, I honestly get the ick 90% of the time. It feels like I'm getting day 1 DLC'd so hard, and for a game that doesn't even exist yet. How is this becoming normalized and expected? Honestly, I'm fine with adding in expansions as a stretch goal, or as even like the Blighted Reach approach, where it truly is a separate, different experience that's completely optional. It's when it gets to this painful place where the base game is only a fraction of the total content being offered, and you really do feel like you're missing out by not purchasing all of this supposedly amazing expansion material. And since I'm in a foul mood, let's look at Don't Starve. It has 4 box expansions, 3 character expansions, dice towers, terrain elements. Jesus Christ, please stop. It's like I'm in a never-ending hellhole of FOMO. Do I need all this stuff? Absolutely not. But there are literally thousands of people who spent $5.99 on the all-in pledge tier for a game that they haven't even played. $5.99 all in. I feel like I'm losing my mind. And please, if you're one of those people, no judgment, none at all, but please tell me the logic. Is it because the supposed MSRP is an eye-watering $1,057? These expansions go to D tier. The only reason it avoids F tier is that there are a couple examples of situations where the expansions do truly feel optional and are worth being on that crowdfunding page. Retail price will be X claims. Like a moth to the flame of burning cardboard, nothing encourages FOMO like the prospect of future cost. I honestly feel disgusted by some of this. How can a game cost $1,057 US dollars. Is this a reasonable cost? Is it sane? Well, you say if you crowdfund now, it's the low price of $5.99. And look at all of this content you're getting. It's so much content. It's just so much wonderfully designed, perfectly implemented content. Stuff your face with all of this stuff. And if you're buying now, you're practically earning money. It's a gift. We're gifting you the best possible price because, of course, you don't want to miss out on all of this amazing content. And I don't understand this anymore. Maybe I'm too old, maybe I'm too poor, maybe I don't have enough physical space. But please, God, please, who is buying all of this stuff? I'm an enthusiast gamer. I play the big boy games. But this hollow monument of cardboard and plastic and bloat and a mishmash of FOMO-inducing design, this is an abomination. Please, put it away. Okay, but you might be saying there is truth. It is a better deal. Look at Elden Ring. Buying it during its crowdfunding phase is legitimately cheaper than buying it today. And that's fair. Crowdfunding can be cheaper. It really can be. $20 cheaper? Sure thing. My problem is that this insanity of value that's being proposed. You're literally saving hundreds of dollars by buying it before it's made, before you get a real chance to hear real people's experiences playing it. And you know, that's fine if it's an $80 or $90 game. It's when it's literally $500 that I start to lose my sanity. And this is a classic tale of what MBAs call anchoring. By presenting an inflated retail price, that number becomes your reference point for the actual value. Then the discounted Kickstarter price now seems like an incredible deal, right? You'd be a fool not to buy it at $5.99 when its true value is over $1,000. Obviously, the FOMO of this is 10 out of 10, and the creator backing power is also 10 out of 10. The retail price claims go into D tier. I am truly bothered, and I have no joy left. Add-ons. Okay, let's take a step back. You might be thinking, well, dude, your pre-launch expansion critique is all wrong because the $5.99 tier has all of these add-ons, not just the expansions, which is fair. It does include all these add-ons. But that brings me to the add-ons themselves. It's like you spend $79 on the normal pledge level, a reasonable position. But once you get to your cart, the very next step, you get 26 possible add-ons. Yes, literally 26 possible add-ons. Is this reasonable? Is this sane? Why is this expected? And you might be saying, well, duh, you don't need all of these add-ons. Like, why would you ever need to buy both the acrylic and plastic miniatures for the same characters? Or why would you need both the dice tower and the dice tray? Like, duh, use your head. But that's not how it works. That's not how this works, man. Crowdfunding doesn't play by normal rules. Of course, you don't need the acrylic and miniatures for the exact same characters. But then, why would the $5.99 all-in include both the acrylic and the plastic characters? Why? It's because crowdfunding FOMO doesn't exist in the realm of sanity. It's not about what's logical, it's about what will quiet your fears and that little demon in your head telling you that you're missing out unless you go all in. I'm going to put add-ons as a 6 out of 10 for FOMO power, and an 8 out of 10 for creators to get extra backers. And from an emotivist perspective, it goes to C tier. It's not the worst, not the best, it's just beyond the realm of sanity. All-in pledges. Okay, so let's dive into the all-in pledge. As you can probably tell, FOMO is a real issue at all levels of crowdfunding. It's like a plague across every shiny miniature render and every hidden little detail across an endless scroll. So what's the proposed solution? What's the cure when you feel crushed and afraid of what joy you'll be missing? It's the all-in pledge, the sacred level of putting your mind at ease. It's the ultimate sign that nothing is good enough until you have it all. Get everything possible to buy. The only way guaranteed to shut down your FOMO bug. To quash it like a tangerine under the foot of an elephant. To snuff it out like a candle against the ocean. It's the ultimate way to milk those who fear not having the best time. The all-in pledge. It's actually kind of brilliant from a user experience perspective. Instead of agonizing over every expansion and every add-on, you just click one button and you're done. Your state of paralysis has a solution. A simple, easy solution. But that simplicity comes at a cost. You're paying for content you might never use, for a game you might not enjoy, because the fear of missing out is stronger than the fear of wasting money. The all-in pledge is a white flag of FOMO surrender. You're buying that peace of mind. And you might be thinking, well, I get all of this stuff for a discount. But look, man, campaign creators know that there exist those whales who just want it all. They don't care about what the all entails. They just know that these people want it. They need to have it all, like a shiny little collectible in their favorite gacha game. That's the driving force. And we know it as campaign creators, we know this. So all-in pledge, it gets a 9 out of 10 FOMO and 9 out of 10 for the creator benefit. But from an emotivist perspective, it goes into C tier. It's definitely exploitative, but at least it's honest. You at least feel comforted, I suppose. But yes, I still hate this. Exclusive content. Kickstarter exclusives are the baseball bat to the head for FOMO. This content will never be made available again. It's exclusive, it's elusive, it's special, and if you don't back it right now, you will never, ever, ever be able to get this alternative card art, this special miniature, this unique component. And from a consumer standpoint, this is awful. It artificially creates scarcity for easily reproducible items. There's no good reason that a promo card can't be printed again, except that scarcity drives back in. And from a creator standpoint, I get it. You want to reward people who believed in your project from day one. You want to create something special for your earliest supporters. But when that something special becomes locked content, it starts crossing a line. A lot of games will implement cosmetic-only exclusives, which typically I'm okay with. It's a variant or a special little thing that might be nice to have, but doesn't impact the gameplay at all. Other companies lock entire mechanics or expansions behind this exclusive content, which honestly just feeds to the FOMO beast. There's a huge range in what can be offered, and by making more important aspects locked behind Kickstarter, the FOMO becomes more powerful. I think it's a powerful tactic, but can generate long-term resentment from people who discover the game later. Like, some people simply won't buy a game if they know they can't get the full experience because certain mechanics are locked behind exclusives they no longer can get. Once again, I'm giving this a 10 out of 10 FOMO power because it's practically a now or never button being pressed. And from a creator perspective, I see it as 7 out of 10. These crowdfunding exclusives go to the C tier of our emotivist list, but it is bordering on the D tier depending on how essential that exclusive content is. Early bird pricing. This is when the first 500 backers get a monetary discount. Fine, I won't get too mad about this one. It makes people want to back early and potentially catches people who wouldn't back at all. The urgency is 100% manufactured, but it's also transparent. You know exactly what you're getting and why that price is different. Early bird pricing definitely creates a sense of FOMO. Those $10 discounts really are powerful, especially when you see a timer counting down or limited slots filling up. There's something primal about wanting to be in that exclusive first group that got a special benefit nobody else will have access to. Even if the product isn't actually scarce, that limited discount slots makes your brain think it is. And look, anything that resembles a countdown or limited availability significantly increases impulse purchases. Just look at Temu, that's the entire marketing technique. But even with this power known, I think it's a bad strategy. I believe this kind of pricing creates a bad taste in the mouth to latecomers to a campaign. It's like they missed out on a good deal, and now because they weren't refreshing Kickstarter every 30 minutes, they need to pay a higher price. This deflation of enthusiasm, as subtle as it might be, I think offsets any momentum or perceived benefit from having the first backers get a special price. It feels less like an award for early backers and starts to feel more like a punishment for those who discover it over the weeks. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for FOMO power, but only a 2 out of 10 for creator benefit. I'm also going to put it into B tier on our emotivist scale. I think it's fine, but I just don't think it's a very effective strategy because it feels punishing for the majority of the backers. Minimum funding goals. Okay, back to being frustrated. Minimum funding goals, the number you set at the start, the number that determines whether your project lives or dies. This number is supposed to actually represent that minimum amount you need to fulfill the project. The amount where, if you hit it, you can actually deliver what you promised. But that's not how it works anymore, is it? Look at this campaign from Simon for God of War. It has about 30 unique models, tons of artwork, and the IP itself. The funding goal is $150,000. The math doesn't add up. If it hits its funding goal of just $150,000, that's not enough to cover the actual expense of production, even before the game is actually shipped. A AAA IP license, that alone could be six figures. Custom art for the entire game, tens of thousands of dollars. The tooling for 30 detailed miniatures, toss on graphic design, rulebooks, platform fees, actually paying designers, and the funding goal is $150,000? It just doesn't work. The numbers don't add up. They can't add up. They never really were meant to add up. So what's actually happening here? CMON knows that they need to hit maybe 500,000, maybe 1 million to make this project viable. But if they set that funding goal at 500,000, the campaign doesn't look like an instant success. It doesn't trigger that, wow, everyone's back in this, the social proof in that first couple days. Instead, they set it at 150,000. The campaign fully funds in a few days or even just a few hours. And suddenly it's 200% funded, 300% funded. And people think, this must be hype. This must be safe. It's way overfunded. The funding goal is theater designed to manipulate you into thinking the project is more successful and more viable than the numbers actually indicate. And this isn't unique to CMON. I see this everywhere. $10,000 for a game with custom miniatures. $50,000 for a game with multiple expansions, like our dear friend Don't Starve. Seriously, there are over 30 people attached to this game. There is no economically feasible way that 30 people are getting paid if they only hit $50,000 funding goal. These numbers are fiction. And it creates this false social proof by misrepresenting what the number actually means. And it punishes honest creators. For example, my own game might need $60,000 to be financially viable. But if I set the goal at $20,000, $60,000 looks like a massive success, and people want to buy into things that look successful. I can put that banner that says 300% funded or funded in 24 hours, but the reality is I only hit what I needed. So creators are punished for honesty and rewarded for fabrication. The system incentivizes obscuring the actual funding required. And I'll be honest, it really does feel like a race to the bottom. Many crowdfunding campaigns will have this unrealistically low funding goal, which then gets the hype machine chugging faster and faster, while campaigns with more realistic funding goals will be overlooked as only 15% or 20% funded in the first few days. So there's this pressure to just go as low as possible, and it's really just not a good way for crowdfunding to exist for long-term sustainability. Now, from a FOMO perspective, it's a 3 out of 10. The funding goal itself doesn't really directly contribute to FOMO, but hitting that number quickly creates momentum through false social proof. But from a creator benefit, it's 10 out of 10. Low goals make you look successful instantly. It's optics. And from an emotivist tier list perspective, I'm putting this into F tier. It's fundamentally dishonest. You're obscuring information to your backers about the viability of your project. And you're poisoning the entire crowdfunding ecosystem by making dishonesty the optimal strategy. This is rot. Making good games. You know what the best crowdfunding tactic is? Making a good game that people actually want to play. All the FOMO tactics in the world can't produce a great product. These tactics might get you funded, but they'll destroy your reputation when your backers receive a rather disappointing product after being promised an explosion of deliciousness. And there are so many great games that came from crowdfunding. Root's idea of a deluxe edition was some extra artwork and a signed box. The first Kickstarter for Gloomhaven was only $79, which is about $108 in today's money, and offered a miniature version versus a standee version of the game. It's so quaint by today's standards. And look at some of the greats. The entirety of companies like Stonemaier Games began off a fairly modest Kickstarter. The FOMO in those mid-2010 campaigns was organic. It was FOMO through excitement about something new and innovative from creators, rather than force-feeding you every trick to convince you to pledge at the all-in tier. So at the end of the day, while FOMO can drive short-term purchasing decisions, its impact on long-term customer loyalty is not great. It takes an actual good product to have people excited about what you make in the long term. Like, think about this. How many people still talk about the Elden Ring game, besides its obscene amount of packaging? So, after a long day of memes, when I'm building my own crowdfunding page at 2 a.m., that's what I'm thinking about. Not how many expansions can I fragment this game into, but is this actually good enough that people will want to play it? Okay, let's rate it. It's infinite out of 10 FOMO, or maybe 0 out of 10 FOMO depending on how you look at it. And it's a 10 out of 10 for creator benefit. This goes to S+ tier. It's the foundation everything else should be built upon. Look, I'm not here to tell you you're flawed for backing an all-in pledge or for falling for FOMO tactics. I've done it too. We're all flawed. And these tactics exist because they work, and they work because they tap into core vulnerabilities in our human psychology. I guess for me, the thing that bothers me is that there's less and less focus on the game itself in these campaigns and more focus on the physical bigness of it all. There's so many things you'll be getting at this higher pledge tier, the exclusive content, the add-ons. And you might be able to dodge some of these FOMO tactics, but it's gonna catch you eventually. We should be aware of what's happening. When you see a retail price of $1,057, a sticker next to the Kickstarter price that says $599, you should recognize that as a FOMO-inducing tool that it is. And when I see 4 pre-launch expansions, I really question the design choices it took to get there. At the end of the day, when I'm plucking away at my own crowdfunding campaign page, I do think to myself, I need to run a sustainable campaign, so I need some incentive for people to want to back me. But I also don't want to take advantage of the trust that backers will place in me. Crowdfunding at its best is a partnership between creators and supporters. It funds dreams that couldn't exist otherwise. It builds a hype community around shared enthusiasm. It lets creators take risks that traditional publishers might find unfeasible. And ultimately, it can lead to some of the greatest games that were ever made. But crowdfunding at its worst is a FOMO-driven nightmare of artificial scarcity and psychological manipulation that leaves backers with buyer's remorse and creators with unsustainable business models built on exploiting human psychology rather than delivering something people enjoy. And there is a meta for crowdfunding now. There's an expectation for multiple tiers, multiple expansions, add-ons, and goals. It's like there's a formula to it all. Seriously, go on to any successful big Kickstarter and you'll start noticing the exact same rhythm to all of it. So where does this leave me? The truth is, some FOMO is good and actually necessary for success. It's not an all or nothing when we talk about trying to generate support for crowdfunding. In a very real way, there needs to be some kind of tangible benefit for people to take a risk into backing something that isn't 100% ready to be shipped to them. There needs to be some excitement, some form of consumer hype machine that actually generates that campaign that works and is sustainable. It might be as simple as a free first player coin for people who actually back the game. Or it might be a stretch goal incentive. Or it might be as egregious as Kickstarter exclusive expansions and hundreds of dollars of add-ons. And look, I don't blame creators for trying to make a successful campaign. We all want a successful campaign. But I think it's also good to be aware of how FOMO can be weaponized and how we all have these vulnerabilities in our psyche. From a creator standpoint, we can only push so far before consumers start rejecting crowdfunding entirely as a FOMO minefield. And from a consumer standpoint, we should be aware of these potential bombs that could blow up in our face. And for my own crowdfunding campaign for Sunlit's Eulogy, yeah, I'm going to probably have stretch goals. I'll likely have some small benefit for people who follow before launch. But most importantly, I want to put my chips on making a good game. Anyway, that's my talk on the hottest sin of today, of FOMO. If you think I'm being too harsh or not harsh enough on any of these tactics, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your experiences with crowdfunding, both as a backer and as a creator. As always, thanks for watching, and bye.